Hey, what's up guys? This is Oakley, and yes, we are going to be fighting in Third Age Total War. This is a mod for Medieval 2, obviously, and we're going to be playing to retake Osgiliath. The factions fighting against you are going to be Gondor versus Mordor, and as I said, fighting in Osgiliath. Very, very cool map. So the initial engagement is going to be the Ithilien Rangers pushing forward, and the Orcs, cheap troops, Orc Raider is going to be running forward to deal with us. So we're going to replace our Ithilien Rangers with some of these Axemen. We're going to be pulling back to our forces here. Arrayed in front of you, and you can see lots of the Gondorian archers set up here. A lot more reserve Axemen. So this is going to be a really, really fun fight. The battle itself is to reclaim the city, but most of it taking place in the center here. What's sick about this is you fight most of the engagements here, but there is a massive kind of beachhead here that we're just seeing the enemy start to form up and defend. And then you can come across and fight over the bridge on this side. So let's go over the attacking force, which is going to be mostly Gondor. We're trying to reclaim it. So we have these awesome dismounted Swan Knights. Limit was 4 of these elite troops per army, so me and my ally maxed out. We have a lot of Gondorian archers, some of these Axemen, and Gondorian infantry lined up here. I have more reserves. These awesome Swan Knights going to be very useful later on. And more reserves. I hid some of my Gondorian infantry back here. We're waiting to pour forward. But most of my guys are going to be redeploying over here. I am now forming up, and this is going to be an important part of the battle, is my push to take this area here. So moving forward with some Gondor spearmen to try and back up my archers. But my archers are actually up here, and they're in a perfect firing position in this elevated area. They can get some easy direct shots off. Those Orc Raiders, we tip the scales in our favor with those shots. Shoot away a lot of their ranks, and now the balance of forces is even. And I'm going to be able to, by taking this elevated position up here, really help turn the central battles in our favor. The Ithilien Rangers are now protected, and they can unleash on the forces here. This is going to be really cool. It's almost going to be like a D-Day into this approach. So right now, it's not very well populated, and it's kind of scarce in terms of troop deployment, but you'll see there is a lot more. Look at this, more dudes lined up here, Orc Raiders, and even further back we can push through the courtyards. I love the city, it looks so sweet. Tons and tons of run-on guards, halberd troops, Uruk halberds, heavy infantry, tons of these dudes. Look at this, just more and more streaming all the way back. We have some Olagai. These guys are ferocious armored trolls. More of these troops forcing up. They have catapults as well. Catapults are going to be extremely dangerous, especially when they can fire upon clusters of infantry. And now the enemy response is coming up the right flank. The D-Day has not quite begun. However, we have been able to clean away these Orc Raiders with the support of our troops. And now the main charge of the enemy force is coming up through here. My archers are going to be unleashing on them. Most of the shots going up and over, but my spearmen are going to be told to charge and hold this. Now we can watch the arrows as they come and hit this mass of dudes. So this is a part of the battlefield that's going to be seeing a lot of action. Now the archers up here, like I said, are going to be very, very important. They can fire across the ocean and try and help our guys out. Or not the ocean, sorry, the river, and try and help our guys out. And what they can also do is do suppressing fire on the forces over there. However, something you'll notice in Medieval is that if you don't have direct line of fire, your archers are going to be shooting up. And whenever that happens, actually most of the shots are going to scatter. If you take a look here, most of the shots are going to be missing. So it's going to be important, if I want to be cost effective, not to waste too many of my shots. Speaking of wasting shots, the artillery is going to start to unleash on my guys. Most of them are going to miss, but the lucky ones are going to land perfect strikes, bringing in some axemen to reinforce some of my spearmen. Or otherwise, in a tight bind, defeat seems almost certain. Only a military genius could win this, because look at the enemy troops facing against them. It's a huge horde of dudes. So I'm formed up into Shieldtron, or I will soon. I'm going to send in more reinforcements, but my archers pulled back. I'm going to try and get a more advantageous position to fire. But I'm also going to be keeping an eye on, look at this swarm of dudes in the distance coming at us. The orcs are making a crossing. This is going to be one of many back and forth charges you're going to be seeing across this no man's land. All the fire shots raining in on us. Tons and tons of combined orc archers and goblin archers firing upon us. So they're going to rain down on our troops. We're charging forward with our first contingent of shock troops. So these heavy axemen going to be chewing through those orcs. They got destroyed, backing them up with Gondorian infantry. So now we're going to be told to go ahead and try and take the beachhead. 2 Gondorian infantry backed up by some Ithilien rangers. These guys are excellent long-range troops. We have Ithilien rangers back there also shooting, and we're, staging more troops to push forward. Meanwhile, this trebuchet is going to be firing into this cluster of men. And look at the bloody area here, the stakes lined up, lots of corpses already starting to pile up. We're doing as much as we can to clear out these positions, and here come the first swarm of the Gondorian axemen. This is going to be the high water mark for the time being, and you'll see how it ebbs and flows throughout this battle. And we've been held back on this front by more steady raiders, but look at the shots coming from the bridge over here, landing perfectly on the flanks of these units. So that's why it's extremely important for me to hold that bridge. Over in the front, my spearmen have been destroyed, and ooh, these orcs have a perfect line of sight here. Ooh, and that destroyed 20 or 30 of my guys. So catapults are definitely going to be a problem. These guys are hacking away furiously at my guys, trying to make it all the way to my archers. And now the enemy with the direct, perfect angle is able to fire on me. But I'm going to make a calculated choice to not fire at the enemy archers. I figured Gondorian archers have enough ammo. Whoa. I figure I have enough ammo that I should focus on the targets right there. Except one of my militia units, which is cheap and in relative cover, is going to line up for perfect shots, arcing right over here and landing in and among the goblin tracker. So I think we should be okay there. Like I said, most of my supporting shots going to be whittling away at these forces. Let's take a look at our axemen if we still have the ability to push forward. We are doing really well chopping some of these orcs to bits. But this is only the fodder troops. This is archers and goblin spearmen and troops we should be too worried about. Just trying to hold us back. So it looks like our guys are making some headway. We're perhaps being eager that we'll make some progress. Over on the right, however, a lot more troops are being repurposed to fight over here. My lone group of axemen is almost being cut to pieces. And if that falls, then that's going to basically lose me the control of the bridge. So I have to perhaps start to pull back. But here is what is going to be coming to my rescue. A full unit of my elite Swan Knights. I only have 4 of these guys. Ooh. And yeah, I really can't stay clustered like this, but my Swan Knights are going to allow me to hold this position. Like I said, very, very elite dudes. They look super cool. Fortunately, we didn't see them in the Lord of the Rings movies, but they're an interesting part of the lore. Just as my guys are about to run out of men, I'm able to pour in some support. A couple of them get crisped. Ooh, a couple more going down there. My axemen are eating it. Here comes another volley. Oh, luckily most of these shots are going to be missing. But now with the Swan Knights in the mix, the enemy is rather tired. And yeah, look at that. I actually, with the Swan Knights here, was able to break through. I lost a couple of them in that engagement, but now we're going to be pushing forward. And it looks like there's nothing to back this up, so now I'm going to be able to charge straight into these goblin trackers. A lot of incoming fire, but my guys have the armor to eat this up. Over on the side here, the enemy has unleashed their reserves on our forces. They figured we'd penetrated far enough, and now they're going to be coming in with some of their trolls, saving some of the Olagai for later. But this is a good move right into the flank of our unit, and you can see how they just took out all of them. We have 1 more axeman unit, 2 more axeman units being poured into this, trying to take out these trolls, but this is going to be very hard for us to do. We have a lot of the Ithilien rangers pouring on the fire, trying to do as much HP damage as possible before we close in. And again, this is kind of our fodder units. Look at the mounds of dudes we've had to wade through to make progress. But then if you were to take care and look in the distance, you would see tons and tons of troops pouring out of the reserves. And this is going to be, look at this, heavy infantry, rank upon rank. We're going to go through and look at these dudes as they storm forward. Very scary stuff, and especially here, the heavy-hitting beasts, the Olagai, are going to be pushing forward. A lot more reserves yet to come. This is the might of Mordor. Meanwhile, my Swan Knights have been making steady progress. A couple of the axemen being pulled back, and so we're chewing through these early dudes, the Marauders. But more units have been pushed forward, so I'm not going to be cutting through this anytime soon. Some of my archers, most of them are firing in close support. But I do have a couple of my archers in the back firing straight at the enemy. But let's watch this engagement. We are now having 3 of our archer units in a staging position, mostly tasked with supporting fire on these troops massing up. And look at that hail of missiles coming in at these guys. The Olagai, however, committing themselves, charging from the flank straight into these axemen. These axemen have had to survive 2 brutal charges from different troll units, and they're kind of sacrificial at this point, but meant to hold down the enemy while we pour in tons and tons of fire. If we look at this troll unit, it's down to 3 men left, so that's pretty good for our part, but it has caused so many units to be wasted and destroyed in the process. But now here comes the enemy heavy infantry forming up, and a lot of the goblin trackers and archers here redirecting their fire into the main breach here. And I really love this rear position where they have a ton of archers massed up, and out of every little nook and cranny of the city come more and more orcs. Halberdiers are particularly hard to beat. Halberds obviously very hard to crack from the front, and so this is what they're going to be pouring into the breach just as we're making some sort of headway. It is going to be erased. A couple more Gondorian infantry poured into here, but now we're going to perhaps think better of this as we start to see more units. And now the Olagai are going to be charging forward. These guys have taken a bruising, but still they're ignoring our front lines, and they're going to be going for our weak units in the back. You can see all the arrows firing in at them, not doing a goddamn thing. And here comes a devastating charge into our rear supporting lines. No one here to save these archers, so he has 3-4 units of free troops to hit. The artillery comes in to clobber our guys. So over here, the rest of our troops are breaking and running. So this beachfront that we had more troops routing, the charge of the orcs, the support of the heavy infantry, the support of the archers and artillery is going to be forcing our guys back. This is not looking good. They have our weak troops held, and this is not good at all. All we have back here is some Athelian Rangers. So this could be a problem. The trolls are going uncontested, charging through our guys, and it looks like there is almost no hope. Meanwhile, on the bridge, I'm pulling in some more reserves, Gondorian archers, more of my troops trying to focus fire to support our dudes. And up through the front, I've been able to avoid most of these hits, although a couple of them tore through my men, and Swan Knights still chewing through the units. But just as these trolls are pouring through more of our guys, they're now into our Athelian Rangers. The Athelian Rangers are going to try and stop them, but the trolls unfazed by this. Luckily, my Swan Knights are going to come to the rescue. And now you can see them charging forward as the rest of the men fall back. This is going to be absolutely necessary. These guys, like I said, are heavy elite troops, and they're going to be able to tear through these trolls. We're going to be doing a lot of damage to me otherwise, but we definitely need them to hold them back. So here goes one of the Olagai. Another one goes down, so you can see just how easily I cut those guys up. Meanwhile, over here, the trolls are breaking through our guys, so our entire force has been reduced to a paltry remaining few. Counter battery is going to be doing something to hold the enemy tide back, but they're going to continue to push through. And it is only due to the support of my Swan Knights that we're able to hold this counter assault at bay. The Olagai now pulling back, and so I'm going to be here rallying my guys. Another Olagai goes down. So I've effectively saved all these men, owing their lives to my troops, and this is going to be very important to keep such units alive. So here comes the charge of my Swan Knights, rallying the men. These archers have been saved. They're going to turn around and fire into those trolls as they pull back. My Swan Knights, however, are going to be facing some enemy spears, and so now I'm going to try and pull back, having now rallied our troops. A couple of my guys getting in range of the enemy bows, so now we're going to pull back to a safer position. But here comes the counter rush of the enemy. Like I said, this is going to be a game of high water marks on either side. So just as the tide recedes for my men, the enemy force is going to be coming in, storming through our guys. And look at these dudes wading nonchalantly through our archers. More and more and more troops pouring into this. The catapults getting into a better firing position, so they have totally cleaned out our push through here. And look at these halberdiers lined up to defend the archers. In this position, my Swan Knights have chewed through the enemy. My archers standing on the corpse of men here, now with a nice firing position, directly firing upon these enemy troops. Orc halberdiers trying to hold strong, but with no archers to support them, I will be able to chew through these guys slowly but surely. Here comes the enemy counter-assault, trying to mop up our dudes in the center. I've redirected fire once again from the bridge, showing just how important that position is. Let's watch from the position of these dudes. This is definitely the epic retaking of Osgiliath. This is what I always imagined it was like in the third Lord of the Rings, when you got little snippets of the troops defending Osgiliath. This is what the heavy fighting must have been like earlier on. Troops on the bridges firing upon the enemy, holding them back, supporting archer fire being used to bombard the enemy. Trebuchets in the distance, giving covering fire, all the epic stuff. My knights now pulling back after only losing a couple men, but getting a lot of kills to their name. Having rallied this force entirely, saved the trebuchets, and now look at this. Did you see that? That direct fire trebuchet took out one of these trolls. Once again, the tide is being forced back. Swan Knights committed into this fight, and a couple more Gondorian infantry poured in. This is going to be really, really good for us. The beachhead is now going to be once again held in contention. Here comes the tide rolling back. Athelian Ranger is going to be the first into the breach, and in the distance there you can see some of my flags pushing forward. Athelian Ranger is going to be charging straight into these dudes, going after the Goblin Archers, and the Trolls just waiting here patiently to clobber on my guys. Only a couple of them left. Ooh, we landed a nice shot on that dude. And here come the Knights. Pulled onto the right, and their task is to clean up the heavy enemy troops that would otherwise take out scores of our men. This is exactly what they should be used for. Taking out elite troops like this, the Olagai noticing that this is crucial for them to get into this fight. That's just going to make more targets for my knights to take out, but still the Olagai with every swing taking out more and more of these elite knights. Yeah, a lot of damage being dealt here. But there goes an Olagai down. And if I can absorb this amount of damage on just one unit, that is going to bode well for the remainder of my troops. Imagine if these guys took the brunt of the Olagai charge, they would be breaking in instants. They're already having enough hard time breaking these Uruks. On this side, you can see the Swan Knights having broken through on this flank, now going around for a rear attack on this force. Epic stuff. The Swan Knights looking beautiful. Swans appropriately coming out of the water here, making their home along the water's edge and claiming it as their own. Now we have a nice sandwich here. And yep, Swan Knights once again pulling out, having lost 20 men in that engagement, but in doing so, took out the entirety of that Olagai force. So now we have the beachhead painted in the blue bodies of my comrades. And over here, the Swan Knights, having successfully dealt with all the forces in front of them. And now my archers directing all their fire at the enemy. I've repurposed all of my archer units up on this position. We can watch them just to try and silence this force in front of me. I decided to charge forward, knowing that my enemy was going to be able to rally a lot of archers to shoot against me, and so I figured now is the time to break through this position. I should be winning this pretty easily. So my archer militia, now out of ammo, are going to commit themselves to this fight as well. And that's going to, now that I have the pressure on my opponent and I've engaged him there, archers are now going to refocus their assault, or their barrage, onto that breach. Let's watch these arrows as they come and land, softening up the targets right before a Swan Knight charge. So we're doing pretty well, but every time we push perhaps right up to the stakes, it is not going to go well for us because of the close support of the artillery, the archers. Now you can see once again the tide is receding. Don't know how many times this is going to happen in this battle, but the orcs having just so much pressure put on us, and I think large part due to the halberdiers holding strong. That's going to be forcing back our knights. Swan Knights, they're broken. That is a very hard thing to do. And here they go charging forward. Some Swan Knights holding this portion, but the rest charging forward into our infantry and Athelian Rangers. However, we were able to scare them off. Holding firm here with some spearmen. We've got a rough line holding here while our archers move up closer to try and take out enemy targets. The effects you're seeing here is going to be the enemy artillery firing a bunch of the special projectiles that decrease your combat abilities and morale, so this is going to be devastating for us. Swan Knights again, you'll see them come in every time the enemy tide is at its peak, My guys coming here to keep it in check. Woo! Another nice shot from our dudes. Swan Knight's not going to try and commit too much because, again, the artillery is going to be focus firing us. A lot of the archers are going to be trying to focus fire, so I did what I needed to do. And especially here with these Nazgul, this is going to be very, very threatening. So my guys, keep an eye on this. They're at 30 men. They've taken out Olagai units with heavy losses, and now they're going to try their hand at the Nazgul. But look at this, the Nazgul, every swing, just like the Olagai, going to be taking out my dudes. And I'm not going to land a single kill on these Nazgul. Hopefully doing a lot of damage, but it is taking a toll on my guys. It is nonetheless delaying the action. The Nazgul being drawn over here, allowing my guys now to push forward. So this was perhaps a crucial sacrifice on the part of the Knights. They've now picked a better target, the Goblin Trackers. This should be a bit easier for us. And the Nazgul, having been distracted to their next target, are going to be doing a lot of work, but it's opened up the chance, the possibility for us to charge forward here with Swan Knights still at the tip of the spear, pushing forward, pushing the enemy back. But now this is where they get to their highest compaction, and they're going to be able to pour with a lot more guys. Look at this, tons of new reserves coming out of nowhere to reinforce, in a fresh group of trolls. Nonetheless, these are actually the artillery crew. It's nice to have artillerymen who can fend for themselves. These guys drop their catapults and they're going to get ready for the assault against our guys. Over on the right, more Olagai were committed. This time actually to try and force my dudes back. They cleaned up my Swan Knights for the most part. You can see the remainder of my Swan Knights still here, just 3 of them left fighting to the last. What I decided to do is pull up with my Fountain Guards. These are very, very elite troops, especially since they can form up in pike formation. They're going to be very important for holding this position. So now they're going to be forcing these orcs, these orcs and trolls back. And once again, safeguarding the archers to put on a lot of fire. If we go back and watch the assault we had here, it's pushed forward pretty far. But again, it looks like we're reaching one of those tipping points where the proximity of the enemy fire causing some of our men to break. Swan Knight's not going to be breaking, but the archers in the back going to perhaps do so. Swan Knights still here charging forward. Going to commit themselves to this engagement, but the halberds are going to drop their halberds, and now they're going to chew away at our guys who are at their wits' end, the adrenaline running out, and now they're going to take out our dudes. And that is going to be it for my Swan Knights, going down in a blaze of glory. And as we've seen before, once the Swan Knights die or pull out, that is going to signal the end of our assault. So look at this, our guys already starting to waver. On this front, our dudes have started to break. And so like I was telling you, once the elite troops break, the enemy is going to seize on that. So one more time, the tide of Gondor is receding, the tide of Mordor is moving forward. And we were in a pretty disadvantageous position. We did have nice inroads against the enemy, but with those reinforcements, it was really impossible to push forward. And look at the thick mat of troops and dead bodies we've left in our wake. We want the enemy to be drawn out into the close support of my archers in this position, where I still have, I believe, some troops waiting to reinforce. No, it looks like I've committed everything actually, so that is going to be it. So this is the last group of archers up in this position, and they're choosing targets wisely. They're going to be taking out some of the orc bodyguard here. Very important for me to take out these guys. They're trying to seek shelter, it looks like, up through the front. I've actually been able to pull away two orc troll units. One of them went down previously. Now the Olagai, very, very important for me to hold them here against pikes. This is going to be the best engagement I could ask for. It doesn't look like it's necessarily going in my way, but this is the best way to take on trolls. Better to have them committed here. And there goes one of them down. Only a couple left, but better to have them committed here than over on this front where they could take a lot of dudes. Now, we've reformed here, pulled in a couple more of our last remaining Swan Knights. Our archers are going to be unloading at the enemy, but they've simply pulled back, leaving this wasteland in front of them. And they've pulled back to this cool, sweet-looking courtyard where they can get some cover actually from the archers and get a couple shots with their fire arrows at our dudes. But more of the halberdiers is going to be sallying forward. as we try and step foot. Here comes the next charge, leading with some of our Gondor archers. This is one of my last remaining Gondorian archers. The infantry going to be committing first and foremost. One of them being sent over here, a light troop on a suicide holding action mission. And they're going to be cut to pieces, not going to last very long. And there they go, they're broken. But that's going to be long enough to perhaps hold back that flank as we commit more troops. Spearmen. And on this flank, the charge is going to be met. And I love these engagements as our troops come out of the water, his troops come out of the colonnades. Very, very epic stuff. Swan Knight's going to be committed where they need to on the flank to hold the enemy back. And I think the most important unit here is going to be my archers that are still left alive. In close support like this, where they can mostly get direct fire, and especially into the flanks of units, going to be very important. Ooh, and the enemy there landing a huge blow on our dudes. This is why being in these positions is extremely dangerous. These Swan Knights are very, very expensive. We only have a couple left. One more of them being thrown into the mix. Another one for my ally. And then actually we have two more. These are my last two remaining. The other ones, one was committed up the center. Another one was committed up on this flank. My Fountain Guards. Looks like they're going to be taking out... Oh, yep, there you go. The last orc. Or troll, excuse me. And with that... Oh, there, actually that was the last one. And with that, Gondorian archers and everything, we're going to be able to push through here. The catapults really want to clean up our dudes, doing a lot of damage, but I think we're going to be able to crack this nut finally, although a wall of halberds is going to be facing off against us. The fight in the center has been underway for quite some time. Like I was telling you, my archers in close support doing a lot of damage. They've repositioned themselves to get a better flank. I wanted to help out my Swan Knights, keep these high value units alive. And look at this, they're flying right over my dudes into the mass of orcs, doing lots of damage. It looks like we've cut a swath through the center against some of these lighter goblin spearmen intermixed in here, so we've pushed through. On this flank we seem to be doing pretty well, but the small caveat to that is the Nazgul are in the mix, still not having lost a single man, and here to reinforce and cut through our guys. That is not good. Ooh, and now some of the reserve trolls going to be going up against our Swan Knights. Thankfully, they are not the heavily armed Olagai. Instead, they are simply the artillery crew. But it's hard to say simply when you're talking about trolls of this size. But again, my archers being crucial in this fight, sniping dudes here and there. One of the goblin bands is broken. Woo! And here the crush continues. Still not breaking through just yet. This entire force is broken, but now one of my Swan Knights, one of my final Swan Knight units, is going to be committed to this action. Hopefully going to be able to seize control of this. And look, think how, you know, it might be to be one of these Swan Knights. You've watched wave after wave take place in the Central River, and now you've been told to take the high ground. So you march over the corpses of your friend. You can see the final battle being held in the center, fire arrows flying back and forth, and now you're told you are going to be the force that breaks this flank. And so they're going to rally themselves up and then charge across this front. Meanwhile, down through the center, this is a hotly contested fight. We seem to have broken through the middle, but on this front, trolls have been committed against the Swan Knights, in addition to the Nazgul, who have finished butchering another one of our units here. Our guys falling back. This is pretty desperate straits for this flank. Halberdiers, another unit going to be rallying, and this is mostly meant to push our general back, keep him at bay, and replug the center position. Looks like some of the enemy in the center is actually going to start to break, causing the Swan Knights and the few remaining Gondorian infantry, the heroes of this battle, to charge forward and engage with the final trolls. I believe these are the last standing remnants of the troll force. Yeah, it looks like they've been cleaned up on this side as well. We're finally going to be carving through the final ranks. The desperate Uruks throwing in the last of their men, but up through the center, the ranks are thin here, spread extremely thin. Looks like the final line of goblin spearmen facing the Swan Knights are not going to be able to hold up. And we're finally going to push past this stake line and look at what, you know, marks our progress thus far. Bodies and bodies of trolls heaped on top of orcs, heaped on top of men. Crazy, crazy stuff. Halberds, like I said, being pretty imposing, hard to get by, although our sheer numbers are doing a lot of damage. And my archers in the background proving they're very, very important. Repositioning all the time to get the crucial shots. Here a lot of the damage was done to the enemy. You can see a lot of the dead bodies behind this troll. We're going to be lining up for another volley against the last remaining troll. So let's see if we can't score another MVP shot. Nope, looks like the enemy went down beforehand. But we did find a nice juicy target that was hoping to get behind me on my flank. Let's watch as a couple more volleys. My guys warm up. Let's watch as they unleash on this dude. Alright, it's at 92 men. Tearing through that. And now it's at 88. So perhaps not that much damage, but against heavy Uruk halberds, every shot counts. And that's going to be another blow to soften these dudes up. My general, this is finally my general's unit, rallying the men. The horn was blown there. So I'm trying to keep him out of range of the combat. My ally is doing the same thing as his general. We're not going to be risking the final conquest of Osgiliath to some gimmick like an artillery shot or something happening. Although the artillery looks like it's out of ammo at this point, it's firing point blank into our troops with just some of the yeah, you can see the carcasses exploding in pools of blood. So that really doesn't do much HP damage. It's only really going to try and shake our morale up a bit. But nonetheless, it's a little bit too little too late. We have cleaned up this fight, and the enemy now down to about one line thick. And we killed the enemy general. He was thrown into that with the bodyguard units, so now finally, looks like we're, and I've been saying this for a long time, we're finally able to break through this. But let's go ahead and recount just how many, killing fields there were on the way to that engagement. Dead bodies all along the front, and finally at the end of this 30-40 minute battle, we've been able to chew through these dudes, cut through them, and now we're able to pour on through this position. Same thing is happening here. We finally cut up the goblins. The final archers, Uruk archers, are going to try and commit to the fight, but it is over. Some of our men pouring through the center. The middle is now going to be supported by the artillery batteries, and especially my archer unit here, doing a lot to fire upon the enemy. And I think the Nazgul are really the only remaining dudes. They're wading through this combat, unfazed by what's happening in front of them, with 8 men still to their name, lots of HP left. They could pretty easily destroy our dudes, so now they're going to be charging straight into our guys. Follow that up with some volleys from the artillery, and this could do a lot of damage. So these fallen and corrupted kings of men are going to be doing a lot of damage, but unfortunately the general's unit that was paired with them was a mere Uruk, and we were able to dispatch him actually easily. Now the rest of my guys not going to be able to do the same necessarily with the Nazgul, but at least we took out the general himself, and that is going to cause the collapse of the rest of these dudes. So we're going to be charging through, purging the streets of Osgiliath, finally reclaiming it, retaking the catapults, destroying these. They've done so much pain and inflicted so much pain and suffering on us. This is going to be a sight for sore eyes to chase these final remaining troops out of the city. But you saw how many dudes there were in the beginning. This is just a small fraction of what was left. Everything else was thrown into the carnage and is now laying to bear on this position. The rest of the guys are going to try and pull out here through this final exit, the gateway out of Osgiliath Central Plaza, and our general is going to go to town on these guys, cleaning them up. The remainder of the Uruks going to pour out of here, Swan Knights in tow. However, it looks like the Nazgul are going to be not going down without a fight. They are down to 3 men, so a couple of our Swan Knights picking up some lucky kills here and there. And if anyone's going to face the Nazgul, it's going to be these Swan Knights, but every brave man who tries to stand up to these guys is going to be taking on a hero in its own right. So now these dudes, 3 remaining troops, That is all that is left of the Mordor force, but Nazgul are not going to let up, and I always wondered what this type of engagement would be like in the movies. If there was a scene like this, how they would show it off. I thought it would be really epic, where essentially the entire army is destroyed and all that's left are, a couple enemy heroes. And what would the good guys do? Would the foot soldiers even dare to confront them? What would they do? Would they just form a huge kind of ring around the Nazgul and then slowly send out champions? I'd love to see that type of fight. Maybe Aragorn steps forward. But the Swan Knights here are going to be trying to live up to Aragorn's fame. Going to be fighting one-on-one with the Nazgul and holding up pretty admirably. I'm super surprised. Although one goes down, now it's going to be 3 versus 1. Oh no! He rallies himself. He's still in the fight. So these dudes trying to immortalize themselves in the final moments here, retaking Osgiliath, and with it claiming final kills on some Nazgul warriors. That is one way to go down in history. So, one of my guys killing one of them. Really epic stuff. More of his comrades are going to be committing to this fight. The horns have been blown. Everyone is now going to be realizing that this is the moment to strike and purge evil from the city. More of my guys coming back. The rest in the distance, like I told you, having heard the calls of their allies, are going to be coming back around to see what's happening here. 2 Nazgul left. Doing a lot of damage, but here are my hero MVP archers who have been going around sniping dudes at the end of this entire battle. And so we're going to see if they can get some final kills here against the Nazgul. And what they figured is they're going to learn from Aragorn at Weathertop, and it seems like pointy flaming sticks are going to be the best way to take out the Nazgul. So volley after volley is going to be launched into the face and the coats of these remaining Nazgul. Like, back to that engagement I was talking about, what if this was in the movies? I would have loved to see how that turned out, where you have just a ring of Gondorian archers just firing into the Nazgul to the point that they are bristling like porcupines but still not going down. I would have loved to see some sort of scene like that. Oh my god, some of the kill animations like this are so cool to see. That is devastating. Trying to see who's going to land the next kill. Is it going to be a Swan Knight or one of the Oh! Okay. That's definitely going in favor of the Nazgul. Hammering my guy multiple times. Ooh, and I'm doing almost... Oh, so the archers did actually get 1 kill. They did sacrifice one of my own dudes for it, but they're going to claim that as their prize. Now the final Nazgul of the entire force that's left is just 1 dude remaining. The Swan Knights now having the courage to pretty much gangbang that guy. My archers firing into the mix and perhaps claiming 50-50 here. The archers perhaps getting that kill, but it looks like the Swan Knights are actually going to cheer down on the ground, all claiming the final kill right there. So that was really cool stuff. I love that final death blow struck to the Nazgul, the execution here in the courtyard of Osgiliath, really befitting the titanic engagement that you saw happen here. And I just want to pan over the remaining bodies. Jeez, really epic stuff. Almost 10,000 men in this fight. Let's take a look at some of the stats towards the end. So here are my allies' units. So who got the most kills on his side? Dismounted Swan Knights, obviously 105, 271, 312, so 300 on his Athelian Rangers. Those guys firing away high precision, high damage, doing lots and lots of death. Really good stuff on their part. Gondorian infantry doing pretty well as well. If we go down to my guys, overall, no one really breaking the 300 kill mark, but doing pretty good. I would have to say my, wow, Trebuchet got 0 kills. That's fun. Wait, is it? Oh, no, sorry. Casualties inflicted is on the right. So, Trebuchet getting 56 kills. Overall in the kills, my Gondor archers getting around 150 to 200 mark. Archer militia, for being the cheapest troops with 173 and 160, doing work, man. Gondorian infantry doing okay. A couple of them getting just steamrolled 20. I think those are the ones going against the Nazgul. But where are my... Okay, dismounted Swan Knights. Yeah, some of them doing really well, but I think the one I'm trying to track down is going to be the Swan Knights down here with only 52 kills to their name, but that, if you'll recall, was 52 kills, most of them actually being scored against Olagai, some Nazguls that they took on, mostly trolls, so a lot of high value targets. So yes, just 52 men killed, but overall it was, you saw them early on sallying out into the river to save my archers, and that proved to be very important. If you saw the Athelian rangers here with over 300 kills, had I not saved them, had I not saved our archers, this battle could have definitely gone against us. But anyways, that's going to be the wrap up for this battle. Hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for more. Let me know what you'd like to see in the future, and I will do what I can to meet your needs. Yeah, this was definitely epic, and I hope to do more. See ya.